Welcome back to Wondered Bliss. My name is Kevin. I'm an artist, a poet, and a man who, right now, is looking paler than a fucking ghost. Whiter than the moonlight. It's kind of a problem. I've been laughing recently. I live in northern Florida, and I made it all the way through summertime, and I'm paler than I was during the winter. And that's an issue. Because I realized I don't see the sun hardly enough. Hardly enough. I work all the time. I'm indoors doing things, and I'm active. I'm doing as much as I can, right? But undoubtedly I'm vitamin D deficient, and I've got lung issues, allergy issues, and of course that is playing a role. And in today's world, I think most people are probably vitamin D deficient. And it's something that is a bit of a tangent, wildly important for our immune systems. Wildly important for, I think, our general mood. I think seasonal depression is a real thing that happens to people because they're not getting the same level of sunlight. It affects every bit of us. Of course it does. And in this kind of artificial world we've created, I don't think enough of us are getting it. We're just not outside like we used to be. At least most people. So as a side tangent, if you look anything like me, and you could be any color, creed, doesn't matter. If you're not getting enough sun, go get some sun. Try to do it today. It's a bit gloomy outside, but it's better than nothing, even if it is for you too. So I'm going to go out after this. You should too. But I'm back again today, reading a bit more poetry out of my poetry book, What Struggle Brings, by me, Kevin Faulkner. It's available on Amazon, or if you go to my website, wonderedbliss.com, you can find a link to it there and some other merch and other things too, if you like. I appreciate it. But I'm going through poem by poem, talking about life and love and things that I've gone through, struggles that I've had, and lessons that I've learned that have helped me get over previous pains and move forward with a more hopeful and directed purpose. But this next poem here, it is one of my favorites. I don't have a favorite. I maybe have a top 50. But this one, I do love this one. It encapsulates a lot of worry, a lot of stress when it comes to love and opening yourself up to other people, allowing yourself the opportunity to be hurt by love. And I'll read it to you. It's titled Conflicted. Love is what matters, right? That's something I've been hearing my whole life, and I've believed it. I've built up expectations with a dream of what it feels like, and for the most part I've been wrong, which doesn't mean it's bad, it's just different than I thought. It's really more responsibility, because tending to a heart was never meant to be an easy thing. You've both lived your lives apart, and then one day the two start melding, quickly turning into one that then the two of you are sharing, and that is terrifying. The thought that my life here is not my own, the fact that someone else relies on me. Am I grown enough for this? When I barely know myself, do I have enough love to give? And if I give you all my heart, will you commit the same or up and split? I've seen it all before, and now I'm hesitant. I have trouble trusting folks. Shit, I have trouble trusting me. My heart's enthralled in rope and chains, a tangled lock that wound for free. I'm sure I could get out, but would that really be the better thing? I've been conflicted. End scene. And this one here, I think, I don't know, I was 23, 24 when I wrote it. And it's coming off the back end. My parents got divorced when I was 15. I've talked about it a lot. It's something that at least 50% of our population is dealing with, because the divorce rates are, I think, a little over 50%. And when you're raised in that situation, in an unhappy home, one that's split apart and people were uncommitted, it leaves a very sour taste in your mouth about the idea of falling in love, starting a family, doing everything right, doing everything you're supposed to do, because you've seen it go wrong. And then when you go out and you've tried it yourself, because we're built to love, like I said in my last episode, it's one of the most innate desires to fall in love, to find a companion, to help bear the burden of life. You go and you try it, and then because, you have this sour taste in your mouth and you're afraid of commitment because you've seen it all fall apart and you've seen the pain that can cause people and what it's caused to you, you don't put yourself out there entirely, and then it falls apart. And then I ran around for a long time too after some failed relationships where I was just committed to being uncommitted, where I was just being a vagabond of sorts, running from person to person, trying to find some semblance of connection without truly offering myself to anybody or allowing them to get close to me. I did it for a long time, and certainly wasn't helping me heal. If you're out there doing the same thing, I'm sure you can agree with that. It may be giving you highs of different sorts. It may be a life full of excitement, new experiences that is filling you with some idea of joy. But it's not fulfilling. It leaves you empty. The first line of this poem, love is what matters, right? It is. It is what matters. It's one of the, I think, the only things that fucking matter. In truth. And everybody talks about it. It's something I've been hearing my whole life, and I've believed it. Because you should believe it. Your heart's built for it. Of course you believe it. If you don't believe it, it's because you're scarred in some way. You've been hurt by it, of course. I like this next line that I say here, though. I've built up expectations with a dream of what it feels like. And for the most part, I've been wrong. That is a funny thing, and I think what often leads us to being hurt by love. There's so many romance stories, so many fairy tales, so many things that you're raised with, that you see, even that you can build up in your own mind as you see an older couple walking down the street. You imagine, or you can imagine, their love story over the last 60 years. Must have been perfect, right, for them to have made it this long? Likely it has not. A lot of these stories, the fairy tales and dreams, they only speak of one part. Or even in the movies and stories, you get a glimpse of a love story. You don't get the whole life. You don't get the ups and downs, the vicissitudes of life that are always happening. You don't get the back and forth, maybe a little bit in a movie or a story, but it's all so limited. So you can build up this expectation of what you think love is supposed to be. But then as life turns and hardship happens, because it will, strain happens to a relationship, and most of the time, because it's not matching your vision of what you thought your relationship was supposed to be, how it was supposed to feel all of the time, then you can easily want to run. You can try to hide from it or change it, or, I don't know, you feel let down by love. But that's the truth. That 60-year-something relationship, this elderly couple that's been walking by, they've gone through it all, undoubtedly. Maybe there's one relationship out there in the world who's only been nice, has never had any issues, and they've been wildly in love for 60 years. Maybe there's one. But from what I've heard from everybody, it's up and down. You fall in and out of love. or at least the excitement, the flair that you once had, it dies, and then it comes back, and then it dies, and then it comes back. I've heard this many times. And I think that's the truth. And if you have the right expectation for what love is supposed to be, what you're supposed to bring to the table, and what you're supposed to receive, then it won't let you down. Because it's what you expect. You expect the vicissitudes of life because it will go up and it will go down. This is a thing. This is the truth. But I love this line here, this realization that I had, where I love it. It's different than I thought. It's really more responsibility. Because that's what you're bringing to a partner. You're responsible for them. They're responsible for you. You're no longer two individuals in a relationship. I mean, you still are yourself and they are themselves. But you two are in one relationship. And you're responsible to each other in that relationship. And it is a scary thing. But I say it here, tending to a heart was never meant to be an easy thing. That was something that I had to learn. I had to learn about myself. The heart is a delicate thing, dealing with the whole wide range of human emotions. They can be affected by everything, everyone and everything, and they're delicate. They're delicate. In your partner, they're going to be delicate. How you act, what you say, it's important. Of course it is. It makes a difference in, for one, every interaction that you're having. But the sense of security in the other person when it comes to the relationship. The sense of security you have in your relationship, how you two are acting together. You're responsible for that. So you can't act recklessly. Otherwise, it's going to fail. Of course it is. Fucking duh. It's amazing how simple so many of these things are. But so easy to fuck up. But it is this thing. And this next little stanza, I guess, is the part that I struggled with the most. How you've both lived your lives apart, and then one day the two start melding, quickly turning into one that then the two of you are sharing, and that is terrifying. The thought that my life here is not my own, the fact that someone else relies on me, am I grown enough for this? That's a tough one. Because you have to be willing to give. It's not all about you anymore. You can't lose yourself in a relationship, but it isn't all about you anymore. It's what you can give to them. And they're doing the same thing in return. Or they should be. If they're not, then it's a one-sided relationship and it's probably not good. You have to be doing this for each other, back and forth. But it is scary. Because this next line, I fucking love this poem. When I barely know myself, do I have enough love to give? And this harkens back to the idea of responsibility. And what you're bringing. A lot of us, we don't know who we are. We don't dive deep introspectively to figure out where our pain points are, where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are. So often we're walking around and we've been ourselves every day, so we think we know who we are, but we're floating around in all of our dreams and anxieties back and forth, yada, 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 and we get lost in a daze. It's so easy. And it's so easy to not see ourselves clearly because of it. And we'll walk around feeling like we don't know ourselves. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I expect out of life. And if you don't know who you are, what you want, what you expect out of life, how can you expect yourself to be a good partner to somebody? And this is another thing that goes wrong. A lot of people, they shack up before doing any of this inner work. And then as they're developing and growing, they start to figure out who they are, what they want, but it's different than what they sold the other person when they got together, because they changed. But then you two have committed to each other, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, the situation I'm finding here, this person I've become related to, doesn't want the same things that I've now discovered that I want. So then you feel stuck. And that's a problem. That's a serious issue. I think people need to be much more careful and much more deliberate before they get into a relationship, to finding who they are so they know what they're giving. They know what they're expecting. They know the path they're walking on. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be getting in a deep, long-term relationship with anybody. Find that first. You don't have to have everything figured out. You'll never have everything figured out. But you at least need to know where you're headed, where you want to go. And find someone who fits that story, that dream, who wants to head relatively in the same direction. That's a huge thing. Because here's the thing, it's if I give you all my heart, will you commit the same or up and split? Why would a person want to leave if you two are going the same place and you're doing it together? Why would they want to? Only reason anyone ever wants to leave, go find a different relationship or head in a different direction, is because you have different visions, different desires. You're not looking for the same things. So as they're trying to go find what they desire and want, if you're not going there, they've got to leave. And most of us, we're not figuring this shit out. And we're not being responsible with our hearts, with our dreams, with our visions, with our lives. And then we bring that to the relationships that we get into, a lot of times just based off of physical attraction, which is important. Fuck yeah, it is. But it is not the only thing. But so many times people are getting shacked up for that reason alone, not thinking about all these other things, and then they get hurt. And they have kids, and they hurt the kids, and then they get these ideas in their head about what life and love is, and they walk around depressed as fuck all the time because they're not finding meaning and purpose, because they don't believe in love, and they have trouble trusting people, because they've seen things fall apart and people get hurt over and over and over again. The part that I think that maybe I've struggled the most with beyond trusting people is this next line here, where I say I have trouble trusting folks. Shit, I have trouble trusting me. That's another thing people don't think about enough. I know I didn't for the longest time. As I was running around, being uncommitted to anyone or anything, what was that doing to me? I know it was hurting other people. Of course it was. Of course it was. I never wanted to. But people get excited at the chance of new loves, and if you never call them again, of course it hurts. Of course it does. But what does that do for you? What is this signal, the message that you're sending yourself over and over and over again? When you don't commit to anyone, when you don't commit to anything, deep down, you're telling yourself you don't deserve it. You can say it's because I don't want it, but why don't you want it? Why don't you want commitment and love? Why are you running? Because you don't think you deserve it. You don't think it'll stay. Let's be honest. That shit is not fun. It's not fun to deal with. It's not fun to feel. But you also see yourself repeatedly making poor choices and hurting people, being uncommitted to anything. And if that's what you keep doing repeatedly, it's what you are going to expect from yourself. I love this idea of confidence. Where does confidence come from? I think it was Alex Hermosi who I got this idea from. Genius businessman. He got a bunch of YouTube channels and everything. You should listen to him. But confidence comes from repeated examples of competence. Repeated proof of competence. That's where your internal vision of yourself comes from. It's through the series of events that you completed, that you've done. The life that you've lived leads to the idea that you have of yourself. So if you've gone and you've done difficult things and you've overcome challenges repeatedly over and over and over again, you're a confident person, that you're strong, that you're capable, that you'll be able to go and do things. But if you've ran around and you've been a fool and you've hurt people, they've hurt you, back and forth, you've done this over and over again, what do you think that vision of yourself is going to be? Probably not a very positive one. The way I described it here, saying my heart's enthralled in rope and chains, a tangled lock that wound for free. That vision of myself that I had where I was unhappy. Every poem that I've read in this so far, if you read the book, obviously I wasn't fucking happy with myself. And I had this tangled lock around my heart, this feeling, this anxiety, this negative perception of self that wound for free. It's just the end result of all of my choices and actions, the consequences of my behavior. And where I say, I'm sure I could get out, but would that really be the better thing? I've been conflicted. What I'll say is through the whole experience of my life, I never healed any of the emotional wounds because I just kept adding more. So there was more doubt, more anxiety, more questions, more proof of how life and love doesn't work for me. Because I was continually acting in ways that would ensure that it didn't. And it's only been, like I said in my last episode, it's only been through opening myself back up to love, risking being hurt, being committed to things, that I've been able to turn any of this fucking around. That I've been able to find peace with myself, to understand truly at the root of who I am what I actually want, what actually satisfies my soul. Where do I actually want to be? And I was running from it for a long time because I had seen things fall apart in my earlier years. I had seen it happen. Several of my siblings have gotten divorced. I've seen so many cases of all of it falling apart over and over again. I was terrified of it. I'm still terrified of the idea. Because it's always an option. Divorce is always an option when you become committed. You can always mess up when you try to do right. But I want that fulfilling life. I want to know what it's like to have that partner at the end of my life that we've been together for 40, 50 years. What is that feeling like? To know that you've been committed and given your all. And they have too. You've done it together. What is that like? I know what the opposite is, and it led to a fucking book full of angry fucking poems. 2 of them. Fuck. But the only way to get there, the only way to be that old couple who's been committed for fucking forever, is to be committed forever, is to live that life and make the sacrifices that are required. That is the price. That's what it costs. But I think if I can look back 50 years from now, assuming I'm still alive, and see it all the way through, I believe it'll be a worthwhile experience. It won't be easy. It'll come at the cost of discipline, commitment, of foregoing other options for the sake of commitment. But what I'll tell you from my experience, if it isn't clear to you, being uncommitted, at least from my perspective, has not brought me anything good. I don't think it's really brought anybody anything positive. So, let's try the opposite, eh? Let's go and live a life. Let's see what it's like. Let's risk it. Risk it for the biscuit, eh? We'll see how it goes. And likely it will be a beautiful thing. Hopefully create many more positive books. Much more happy poetry. I believe it will. But all right. That's enough for today. Go check out my book, What Struggle Brings. I do have a second book as well, The Melancholy Swells. They're on my website, linked to Amazon. You'll find it there, wonderedbliss.com. Or you can just find it on Amazon. But there's other stuff on there too. Go check it out. I appreciate it. And go outside. Have a beautiful day. Go get a tan. Get some vitamin D. Go be happy. Peace.